Hello, Haley here, and welcome to the Awakening Collective. Today, we are talking about how to activate the eight clairs, your eight clairs, unlocking your psychic gifts. So, I believe that they're not really gifts that special people have. We all have the access to these abilities. We all have access to an innate intuition because it is our internal navigation system. Okay. Your intuition and your psychic gifts, for want of a better word, are how we manage to, if we use it the way it was intended, navigate us through our spiritual journey, through our spiritual healing, awakening, and through our lives on a path of abundance, on our highest timeline. So we use these gifts to help steer us in flow with keeping us in line with our yeses, with the things that are in line with our soul, so that we can just come and be so that we can be who we came here to be and do what we came here to do in this lifetime. So like I said, we all have these clairs. Some are a little more dominant in us than others, but I'm sure that as we go through these eight clairs, you will see that you actually have all of them. You'll be able to notice where you've used them before. And I'm going to give you ideas of how to continue to expand them, and also a few like sort of bigger picture things that you can be doing to activate a deeper connection to your intuition, activate your clairs on a deeper level, to really use them in the way that they were intended to help you navigate your path and to help, like I said, just really help you move down your highest timeline of abundance. So let's talk about all of that now. So there's, like I said, there's that common belief that we kind of only have one. Um, and there are ones, like I said, that are more dominant, but yeah, we do have all of them. So let's get started. So we're going to start with clairvoyance, which is the one that people sort of hear about and know about the most. So clairvoyance is clear seeing. So this is your the images that come into your mind. So if you are really good at imagining things, so if you can read a novel and get a really clear picture in your mind of, what the house that they're describing looks like, what the characters look like in your mind, the things that they wear, you are going to have really good clairvoyance. That's a really good sign that you're quite switched on in that area. And your clairvoyance can come through as symbols, colors. You can see certain people in your head. You may be thinking about something, or something in healing may be coming up for you, and you can see all of a sudden a certain thing from your past that happened. Maybe something that happened at school becomes really clear within your mind and your imagination. This is a really good sign that your clairvoyance is really switched on. And I think a really great way for you to practice and continue on this journey with your clairvoyance is to do that when you're reading. So if you're someone who doesn't really think you have clairvoyance, or if you want to keep expanding your clairvoyance, then taking a book, reading the book, and trying to really imagine the characters, imagine the spaces, but also try to practice maybe remembering a time from childhood, like a house that you used to live in, a pet that you used to have. Bring them back into your mind, and you can use old photographs to help you. So maybe look at an old photograph, then put the photograph down, close your eyes, and try to keep that vision in your mind to start really opening up that imagination. And even just trying to remember what somebody's face looks like from high school, what a teacher in high school looked like, just to keep that all moving. So that's your clairvoyance. Claircognizance is clear knowing. And this is a tricky one because this is people, I think, there's a lot of people out there who have claircognizance but don't recognize it as such. So this is where you know something to be true without actually having anything to back it up. So it's like when you know something that you know and you just know it because you know what I mean? So it's the hard thing is that people think it's an opinion rather than their knowing. So that's one thing that we need to be careful of, because maybe something's going on the TV that you're watching in politics or watching about a certain celebrity, and a knowing comes through, and you might think that it's just your opinion, like, oh yeah, they're guilty, or oh yeah, that didn't happen. And so you might just think, oh, it's an opinion, but it's actually a knowing. And knowing is, like when the phone rings and you go, oh, that's mum, or, somebody knocks at the door and you're like, oh, that's the postman or whatever. So that's the claircognizance. And a great thing to do to develop claircognizance, or to sort of start recognizing it, is when you get a random thought on something, like let's say somebody says to you, oh, like, I've had a really bad stomach, and you just get this knowing that they shouldn't be eating broccoli or something. Like, write it down, and keep a journal, so that when you start getting feedback, or people start talking to you about something later on, or something, like I said, if something's going on in the news that you have a knowing about, and then you're watching that and that comes true or happens later, it's a really good way to go back and go, okay, like that wasn't my opinion, that was my knowing. Also, it might be that when you're in meditation, a lot of people who do meditation and go into wanting to connect to guides, and get information, because they don't see anything or hear anything, but they just know. Um, Again, you can feel like you're just making it up. So always just keeping that journal. Like, if you get a knowing in meditation, if you're talking to a guide, or you're wanting a guide to come forward, and you just get this knowing, then write it down and journal it out, and act on it. If it's something that it says that you should be doing, then act on it and see what happens. Or if it's a way of being, like, just write it all down so that you can go back and have a look at it. The other good thing to do is to write out some questions in regards to past lives, ancestry, how things used to be way back when, and just kind of get a download from that. So, maybe, where was I in ancient times? What did we do? What did my tribe do? And just start writing. Write down the knowing that you were, you used to sit in circle. This is the way, this is the, the group that used to hunt. This is the, I used to do this when I was there, and just write all of that down. So the next is clairaudience, which is clair hearing. So this can either show up as a voice in your head, or one that's clearly like an outside voice, like something's whispering in your ear or talking in your ear from the outside in. And I think the thing is with this one is that if the voice is inside your head, you can think that you're making it up. And this is one thing, I mean, I think we do that with all the clairs, a lot of people, like, you're constantly thinking that you're making it up. But with clairaudience, the voice in your head is not like yours. It may, like, the tone will be different. So it may be a little bit deeper. It may be full of a little bit more wisdom. You might have that sort of like grandmother tone on it, where it's just full of, you just feel like it's full of more wisdom. Or, it may be a little bit more high pitched, or it may be faster, or it may, it's just got a different tone in the way that it sounds, the way that it shows up. Sometimes it's a little bit more abrupt, depending on who they are, where they're from, what perspective they're giving to you. So it can be a little bit confusing. But again, writing these things down is really, really great. If you are clairaudient, you might get little things like ringing in the ears. That's the way that some downloads come in. The thing is with this, like, try not to attach to things. If it's sort of lasting for around about 10 seconds, that's good. If you've got ringing in the ears all the time, that's probably tinnitus, and you probably should go to a doctor. Like, we don't want to be going, oh, my ears ring all the time, like, I'm always getting downloads. Like, how long is it lasting for? And just be aware that when it does drop in like that, and even any messages that we get, we need to allow them to integrate into our energy. And so we're not always going to be acting on, or things aren't always going to be changing straight away. Sometimes we need to just let it come into our field and be in our field for a bit before things start sort of moving and shifting. You also might hear a lot of messages through songs, or you might start singing a song for no reason, or for what you believe is no apparent reason. So you might be in the shower and just start singing something. So always just with all of these things that we're talking about, always take note. Stop and write it down. Stop and think about it. What was I thinking about before? Had I asked a question? What healing am I going through? What have I been working on within myself? And then, go, okay, so what does that song mean in that? What could that mean in that? What else? Yeah, so that's about it on that. So that's clairaudience. And I'd love to hear, I will say this later, but I would love to hear if you are feeling the love on any of these and going, oh my gosh, yes, this is totally me. I have all of these things. I'm amazing with my psychic gifts. So the next one is clear empathy, which is clear emotion. So this is where the big empath situation comes from. So this is where you can walk into a room or come into a person's energy and sense tension, sense sadness, sense joy. And the thing with this one is you really want to start noticing that, because what can happen is if you're sitting, and this is why people take on emotions that don't belong to them. So let's say, if you work in an office and you're sitting there and you're in a pretty good mood and you're tapping away at your computer and life's good, and somebody walks past and all of a sudden you just are really angry and you don't know why you're angry, and then you just go, oh my God, I'm so angry, and you just stay really grumpy for the rest of the day, it's probably not even yours. And so if you feel like you are an empath, if you feel like you do really sense people's emotions, really start asking, is this mine? When you start feeling a different way, is this emotion even mine? And if it's not, get rid of it, because empaths spend a lot of time sitting in energy that doesn't belong to them and sitting in emotions that don't belong to them, trying to spend time clearing emotions that don't belong to them. So it's really important to start asking questions when you notice you're changing. And I just want to say as well, when we get onto empathy, that we need to be really careful. It's become such a strong identity for people, and we need to be very careful around that. So if you are identifying too much as an empath and you're making it really mean something about you, that can also be detrimental, because again, you're going to be taking on a lot of stuff that isn't yours and you're not supposed to. And the idea of clear empathy is to be able to feel what somebody is going through and then allow yourself to hold space for them in that. But it's not your job to take it on and make it yours and try and fix it or take it from them. Like, that's not what empathy is for. We want to be able to hold space. And so if you're getting drawn too much into everybody else's emotions, just be really aware of how triggering that emotion is for you and what you're going on with that emotion at the moment. If you can't hold space for it, it can be, I'm not saying it is, but reflecting something in you that also needs to be healed. So we want to just be really aware of the thing that's started around empathy and being an empath, and start to really use it as a tool and not an identity. So yeah, really noticing your change in mood around people. And if you're doing work on guide connection and intuition connection, just really also, maybe you do get images, maybe you have a knowing, but also starting to go, okay, how do I feel when this guide presents to me? How do I feel when I'm asking this question? When this message is coming through, is it making me feel sad? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling a sense of loss? So yeah, just really starting to notice and intentionally pick up on what you may be able to feel around that. And as an empath, and if you are big with your clear empathy, really making sure that you are taking the time every day to clear your energy field. You should be sitting every morning, every night, and just pulling everything that does not belong to you out of your field. In whatever way you do that, whether you call forward your higher self or your guides and angels, source point, to just flood your energy, clear it all out, take out all the stuff that doesn't belong to you and all the stuff that does belong to you that you don't actually really need anymore. So yeah, flushing all of that out so that you're starting with a clean slate. So the next is clairsentient, which is clear feeling. So the difference between clair empathy and clair feeling is that the clair empathy comes through emotional feeling. The clairsentience comes through physical feelings. So you might be sitting in front of somebody and you get a pain in your shoulder, or you start to get a headache. Maybe your foot starts to hurt. So this is maybe where that person is manifesting physical symptoms from emotions that they are feeling. So you may have a mixture of that, and you might feel sadness from them and then get a really bad pain in your knee or in your chest, whatever. So this is where you can, you're just sensing that physical dis-ease within the body. And again, this is something that people don't realize. Let's take the office space as an example. You can be sitting there feeling really great, and then somebody walks past, and all of a sudden your back starts really aching. And again, it's really good, like with the clair empathy, like with those emotions, is this even mine? And don't take it on if it doesn't belong to you. Like, just return to sender, consciousness attached, rather than taking on something that doesn't belong to you, because then you start doing different healing and you start trying to fix something that actually isn't yours. So just really being aware of that. And even with your own body, so the next time you're feeling unwell, the next time you're getting pains in your stomach, or you're feeling a little bit sick, you've got a headache, tune into your body and ask, hey, body, where is this coming from? What can I do with this? Is this an emotional thing? Is this, in relation to healing that's coming up, or a situation that I'm going through? Before you just start reaching for Panadol, booking the physio, all of that kind of thing, just tap into that first to see if there's a way that your guides or your higher self can help you clear that out. Really tapping into your own body when physical dis-ease starts presenting to you. So we're nearly done. The next is clairgustance. So this is clear taste. So this is a really interesting one. So this is when you can sense taste without actually putting food in your mouth. So if you can look at a lemon and you could really feel that bitterness in your mouth, and your mouth starts watering, that is clairgustance. So this is a really interesting one to start developing around health and wellness. And, if you're, let's say if you're trying to, become healthier and be a better version of yourself within that space, you can start to just sort of go, okay, if I eat this food and taste this food, how is that going to make my body feel? Is this something that I really need right now? But this also may come through as you might be sitting with somebody, or even if you are a reader, and if you are wanting to just develop your senses more and your gifts more because you want to move into a space where you are helping people to heal, connect with loved ones, this may come up as you're sitting in front of somebody and they're talking about their grandma and you taste cookies. You can say, oh my gosh, did your grandma used to bake you cookies all the time? Like I can really taste chocolate chip cookies, or something like that. So this is a really interesting one to do with that. Or even if you're wanting to connect to a loved one that's crossed over that you've known, you might be able to say, hey, Nana, I'd love to taste your chocolate cake, or whatever it is that, or the lemonade, the fresh lemonade you used to make me, and see if that comes through for you. And then the next one after that is clairsalience, which is clear smell. So this is smelling something without a physical cause. And I had this once when I was driving home from Melbourne back to Adelaide, and I was by myself. My family didn't come with me. And I was out in the middle of nowhere, just driving, somewhere out in God knows where. So there was nothing around me. I wasn't pulled up at traffic lights in front of a pub or anything like that. But I just got this huge waft of cigarette smoke. And I was like, oh my God, where is that coming from? And then straight away in my mind, I just saw my nan, my auntie, my uncle, and my granddad, all from my mum's side, who all used to be big, heavy smokers. And I was like, right, yeah, thanks, guys. That was lovely, because I just got this big waft of smoke coming in front of me. So, and again, you might smell cookies, you might smell roses, and, maybe you're thinking of your nana who's crossed over, or a loved one who's crossed over, and you smell roses and you're like, oh, why do I smell roses? Where's that coming from? And you might not have put the two together. So again, it's just really noticing when you're smelling something that's not around. Oh, hang on, what was I just thinking about? Who was I just thinking about? What from my past was I thinking about? What healing's been coming up for me that is maybe in relation to this? So it's just really having that awareness around that kind of thing, and really remembering, like trying to remember to stop and ask questions around what's going on. And then the last one we're going to talk about is clairtangency. So this is about clear touch. So this is where psychometry comes in. So this is if you maybe touch a ring or hold a photo of somebody, maybe you just touch somebody's arm and a rush of information comes through. And this information will come through with one of your other clairs, whether it's knowing, seeing, hearing, feeling. All of that stuff comes through from touching this. And a great way to start developing this is to touch buildings or trees, different bits of furniture in an antique shop, where you can start to maybe feel into where it came from, where it had been before, other people who have owned it and sat on it. Of course, make sure you clear your energy afterwards, because you don't want to be taking any of that home with you. But or somebody else's jewelry, like I said. So this is a really good way to start developing touch. You might notice if you have clairtangency that your hands tingle a lot, like you get a lot of feeling of energy in your hands, like a lot of healers, Reiki practitioners have obviously really great clairtangency. But even playing with the energy within your hands, if that's something that you want to develop, so rubbing your hands together and just bouncing the energy. I mean, if you're on YouTube, and you're watching the video, you can see what I'm doing, but I know it's a bit hard to see on the podcast. But rubbing those hands together, bouncing the energy in between your hands and trying to make that ball bigger, really playing with that energetic space, and then even placing that on your body. So let's say, let's start talking about ways to mix all of these together. Let's say you have noticed that you have got a pain in your body. So you're using your clairsentience and you say, okay, well, where is this from? You start chatting to that, but then you might want to try using your clairtangency. So like I said, you can rub your hands together, start bouncing that energy and placing that energy on your sore knee or whatever it is that you've got. And just set the intention for healing energy to flow into this space, to bring the emotion out of it. And then you can start going, okay, well, what is the emotion that's trapped here? Can I start to feel this? Or do I know what emotion this is? Can I see if I'm a seer, can I see within my mind's eye where this is related to a person or a place or a time or a life where this has come from? So you can start using and playing with them in different ways. And especially as we're going through our healing and our awakening journey, where our healing is coming up for us, where things are feeling out of whack, starting to really use these gifts in the way that they were intended by helping us to move through. So just playing with them and using them to help us out. So that's the 8 clairs. I know I ran through those pretty quickly. But if you do have any questions, you can let me know in the comments or get in touch with me on Insta at Hayley_Hughes224. Go to the Awakening Collective or hayleyhughes.com.au and you can email me through there if you'd like, if you have any questions on those. Because just before I finish, I just want to go over 3 ways that we can really start to amp up and really unlock these psychic gifts that you have in all of these ways. So the first thing I want to talk about is just clearing past life blocks. So we all have Akashic records, karmic loops that are, like we have these Akashic records, and some of them are brilliant and amazing, and some of these resonance fields are not so great, and we are stuck in a karmic loop with that because we keep playing out and reacting from past life trauma that has gone through many lifetimes, that is sort of on this Akashic record. You think of it as a line of different lifetimes all in the same resonance field. So there might be like 5, 6, 7, 20 lifetimes where the same thing happened. We have this resonance field and they just keep repeating. The pattern keeps repeating. So we want to be clearing that. We want to be clearing those past life blocks. We want to be clearing lifetimes where we were, like witch wounds, or where we had psychic gifts and we were ostracized for it, where our family shut us out, where, we were shunned from the village, all of those things, where maybe we used it a little bit too much and it got us into trouble because we sort of pushed our power a little bit too far and got a little bit of ego in there. And so we have all of these things that can be cleared out that will be stopping us from really stepping into our power as intuitives, really stepping into our power in these areas of psychic ability. So that's one way that we can start to open up more, by clearing those past life traumas and those blocks. But we can also use those Akashic records to actually activate past life gifts. So to tune into Akashics and to tune into past lifetime, where we were really in tune with what we were doing, where we really had great insight, where we were really connected into that power, where we were really great at connecting to other beings, where we were great at just really harnessing in those gifts to help us along our way. So we can go into those Akashics and actually bring that information in and harness that information back into our field, back into our DNA, to help expand our awareness, to help expand these clairs. So that's another way that we can do it. The other thing I want to talk about just briefly and quickly is, and I've talked about it before, is really working on your solar plexus. We get told time and time and time again, when you're activating your clairs, just do your third eye, open your third eye, open your crown. But at the end of the day, most of us, I'm sure that you have noticed as we've walked through these clairs, that you've realized that you actually have quite a few of these already online, and have more that are there, but maybe not as expansive at this time. And so we go on and on about the third eye and the crown, that we need to open those. But like I just said, what you'll notice is you already have a lot of those. You already have access. You're already getting the messages. The issue is in the solar plexus. The issue is your trust. The issue is that your solar plexus is that fourth dimensional frequency that houses all of these past life blocks, that houses all the trauma, that houses, even in this lifetime where somebody's told you to be quiet and squashed your gifts because, you're making them feel bad. So this solar plexus area, this fourth dimensional frequency, is where we hold all of that stuff, and our trust and our worth and our value in what we have to bring to the table as far as our intuitive gifts are concerned. So, and just as we are concerned and stepping into our power, stepping into our brilliance, the reasons we're not feeling safe to step onto our highest timeline and into abundance. So working on your solar plexus is actually really, really important, because it's usually that space that's blocking why we're not using our gifts and why we feel like we're not communicating or getting the messages, because you're just not feeling safe to act on them and move forward with flow, because of these things that have happened in your life that are causing no trust, lack of self-worth, lack of value. And like I said, it's where it houses all those past life karmic loops. So working on your solar plexus is really important, but also your sacral chakra, that sacral center. This is the center of feminine energy, sorry. So this is what we also want to be activating. We want to be activating that divine womb space, that connection into ancestor, that connection into divine wisdom. And so it's not just about those upper chakras when we're talking about opening clairs and connecting to guides and our intuition and our innate knowing. We also need to make sure that we're really activating some of these lower chakras as well. So that's 3 major ways that we can start working on right now to get that done. That was a lot of information today and a lot of me talking, but I'm really hoping that you've noticed the spaces that you are actually really psychically gifted, that you just kind of didn't realize, and that you've got ways now that you can start actually asking questions and moving into opening these gifts up more. I cannot wait to talk to you again next week. I hope you have a great one. And I just want you to know that I'm going to be bringing out a series of sort of like women's circles, free ones, that we are going to be talking about. And we are going to be talking about past lives and activating gifts. We're going to be talking about the sacred womb space, and also one on using oracle cards to connect into your gifts and connecting to your guides. So keep an ear out for those. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.